Testing, testing. Good morning. I call this hearing to order. I'd like to thank everyone, especially our witness, for joining us today for our committee's hybrid hearing. I want to make sure to note a few important requirements. Thank you. Let me begin by saying that standing House and committee rules in practice will continue to apply during hybrid proceedings. All members are reminded that they are expected to adhere to these standing rules, including decorum. During the covered period as designated by the Speaker, the committee will operate in accordance with HRES 965 and the subsequent guidance from the Rules Committee in a manner that respects the rights of all members to participate. House regulations require members to be visible through a video connection throughout the proceeding, so please keep your cameras on. Also, if you have to participate in another proceeding, please exit this one and log back in later. In the event a member encounters technical issues that prevent them from being recognized for their questioning, I will move to the next available member of the same party, and I will recognize that member at the next appropriate time slot, provided they have returned to the proceeding. And finally, remember to remain muted until you're recognized to minimize background noise. And in accordance with the rules established under HRES 965, staff have been advised to mute participants only in the event there is inadvertent background noise. For those members physically present in the committee room today, we'll also be following the health and safety guidelines issued by the attending physician. It includes social distancing and the use of masks. I urge members and staff to wear masks at all times during the hearing. Of course, when you are speaking, you are welcome to remove your mask. And I thank you in advance for your commitment to a safe environment for all here today. Today, the committee will examine the management and operations of SBA's Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. The main purpose of this office, commonly known as GCBD, is to maximize small business participation in government contracting. We know that when a small business is awarded a federal contract, it spurs economic development and job growth in our communities. One of the ways in which the SBA assists small firms is by ensuring that a fair share of federal contracts and subcontracts are awarded to small firms. In 1953, when Congress authorized the SBA, it expressly recognized that doing so would advance competition, bring economic growth, and allow the federal government to receive all the quality goods and services that small firms have to offer. To fulfill this mandate, the Small Business Act sets government-wide small business contracting goals and codifies a series of programs like 8A, HubZone, and WOSB, which provides contracting preferences based on socioeconomic categories. The proficient operation of these contracting programs is crucial for the achievement of the government-wide contracting goals. Within SBA, GCBD is the umbrella office that oversees the federal government's performance of these goals and administers the contracting programs. And so today, our main objective is to discuss trends and administrative challenges within GCBD's purview, especially in this era of economic uncertainty due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me begin by saying I've been concerned about the overall participation of small businesses in prime contracts, which has declined in the last decade. According to SBA's scorecard, even though last year the federal government exceeded the goal of awarding 23% of all eligible prime contracting dollars to small businesses with a record high of $132.9 billion, the small business base shrunk 9% in only 1 year. This is not the direction that we'd like to be trending towards. Furthermore, the federal government failed, yet again, to meet the HubZone set-aside goal of 3%, with only 2.28% being awarded to these firms, and the subcontracting goals for small and disadvantaged businesses, SDVOSBs, and HubZones going unmet in FY19. We're also concerned about the declining number of small businesses that participate in the 8A program, the cornerstone of the contracting programs. In September of 2019, there were 4,450 firms participating in the 8A program, which is about a third less than the 7,000 companies that participated back in 2010. I'd like to learn more about what GCBD is doing to increase participation, particularly now when this program could be a lifeline for many businesses who are in dire straits and losing business due to the pandemic. Turning to the IT systems which support the contracting programs, SBA spent $30 million on certified.sba.gov, a certification management IT system, as of last September. Yet SBA's Office of the Inspector General reported the SBA abandoned the system, which after 4 years of development still lacked critical capabilities, and plans to replace it with another IT program. It's imperative to learn more about SBA's strategy, the scope of this new IT system, and the timelines and costs associated. Another issue of concern is the WOSB formal certification process. It's my understanding that while SBA already began intake of WOSB applications, decisions on certification applications will not be issued until October 15th of this year, the same day that certifications will start being required government-wide. We're wondering, is SBA already reviewing applications, and are there any challenges with these timelines or the IT systems that support this certification process? Finally, we'd like to know what SBA is doing to increase internal controls within programs, particularly within the All Small Mentor Protege program and the Hub Zone program. With that, we look forward to hearing from the Associate Administrator of the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, Dr. Francis Spambanato, regarding these matters, as well as ways in which we can work together to improve small business opportunities. I'd now like to yield to the ranking member, Mr. Stauber, for his opening statement. And good morning, Pete.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your leadership as always. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for convening this important oversight hearing. Each year, the federal government spends hundreds of billions of dollars in goods and services. In fiscal year 2019, federal contract spending reached its peak at $597 billion, with a record high $133 billion in federal prime contracts to small businesses. Recognizing that the federal government is a significant economic driver, Congress has long mandated that the federal government take action to protect the interests of small business concerns and task the Small Business Administration, or the SBA, in leading those efforts. To this end, the SBA plays a major role in the formulation of the federal procurement policies affecting small businesses and manages a variety of procurement programs that are exclusive to small businesses. Overseeing these important directives is the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, or the GCBD, at the SBA. The GCBD's primary goal is simple: to advocate on behalf of small businesses in the federal procurement world. This office is uniquely positioned to develop policies that affect nearly every federal agency, and with hundreds of billions of dollars at stake every year, it is imperative that the GCBD operate like a fine-tuned machine, efficient, effective, and consistent in delivering the best outcomes for small businesses. Small contractors are relying on this office to be their champion, to understand the whole picture of federal procurement and identify where small business participation can and should be increased. Small businesses also rely on the GCBD to manage the SBA's federal contracting programs successfully, since these programs are the cornerstone of success to many small contractors. Mr. Spampino, I understand you are brand new to your current position as the Associate Administrator for the GCBD. I extend my congratulations to you on your recent appointment to your current post and welcome you here today. While this committee will be discussing various concerns we have identified that may have originated prior to your time, these matters are still of great importance today, and I hope you will take this opportunity to learn from your predecessors and take what you hear today as a challenge to improve, to do better, and continue to do better. Small businesses everywhere are counting on you, are counting on the GCBD to do your best, and we have every confidence in your ability. With that, I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Stauber. And if committee members have an opening statement prepared, we would ask that they be submitted for the record. I'd like to take just a minute to explain the timing rules. Dr. Spambanato, you will have 5 minutes to testify, and each member will have 5 minutes for questioning. Assuming you're familiar with the lighting system that will assist you, the greens, yellows, and reds. So green means go, yellow means you have 1 minute, red means you've come up against your time limit, and if you could do your best to wrap it up at that point. We'll have plenty of opportunity during the Q&A as well. Today, we welcome Dr. Francis Spambanato, the new Associate Administrator of SBA's Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. He brings almost 30 years of procurement experience in the public and private sector to the role. In particular, he served as a senior procurement official at the CIA, the Department of Energy, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Most recently, he served as program manager for CTR Management Group before joining the Small Business Administration in June of 2020. I would also note, as I learned this morning when he greeted me with a welcoming Semper Fi, that he served our country during the 1980s in the United States Marine Corps, and we thank you for your service, sir, both in the Marines and ongoing in the public and private sector. Welcome, and you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Golden, Ranking Member Stauber, and members of the subcommittee for inviting me to speak with you today. As the Associate Administrator of the SBA's Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, I am pleased to testify and share significant updates regarding small business participation in federal contracting and the SBA program supporting this important activity. Last month, SBA released the fiscal year 2019 Small Business Goaling Report, which contains several notable achievements. Over 1 million jobs were created by small businesses across the United States as a direct result of prime and subcontracting awards made by federal agencies. $132 billion were awarded to small businesses in FY 2019, an increase of $12 billion over FY 2018, and the highest amount in history. Every socioeconomic category realized growth in the number and value of small business contracts awarded. While I celebrate these small business contracting achievements, I know that COVID-19 brought incredible challenges for small businesses and federal agencies alike. GCBD rapidly engaged with stakeholders to identify and implement measures to reduce barriers and increase opportunities for small businesses. These included posting guidance for small business contractors alongside SBA's COVID-19 resources, introducing flexibilities in 8A and HubZone program participation, and conducting robust outreach to small businesses to connect them with federal agencies in need of products and services to combat COVID-19. On the horizon is the launch of the SBA's Women-Owned Small Business Certification Program, which implements the NDAA 2015 provision to eliminate self-certification for women-owned and economically disadvantaged women-owned small business participating in the program. GCBD commenced robust outreach to stakeholder groups and women entrepreneurs in late 2019 to ensure awareness of the changes ahead and to incorporate their feedback in our processes and systems. I am working closely with the SBA CIO and CFO to ensure functionality and sustainability of Beta.Certify as we stand up the program. I am aware of the history of implementing this program and the application portal and the committee's interest in both. I can assure you that this has my highest attention and focus as Assistant Administrator or Associate Administrator. Each of the GCBD's programs is making notable strides. In December 2019, we published a rule and began implementing changes to strengthen the HubZone program. These program improvements, long overdue, were the result of successful collaboration between SBA, Congress, and stakeholders, and were intended to make it easier for small businesses doing good work in their communities to join the HubZone program, and for all certified HubZone firms to remain compliant with enhanced oversight from SBA. Within GCBD's Office of Business Development, the 8A Business Development Program continues to grow and prosper. During these times of economic recovery, applications from eligible small disadvantaged firms has increased by 132% compared to this time last year. In addition to leading effective and compliant programs, I intend to vigorously promote strategies that lower barriers to entry and frictionless acquisition and reduce barriers to success that small businesses encounter. The Small Business Goaling Report and analysis of Federal Procurement Data System Next Generation illustrate the decreasing number of firms involved in federal contracting and receiving prime contract awards. I am engaged with federal agency small business leaders, senior acquisition officers, and my GCBD team to understand the causes and how we may address the outcomes. Additionally, my office routinely engages with small business contractors to hear their frustrations and where their pain points are. My intent for GCBD is to be a collaborative facilitator with agencies and small businesses to achieve better outcomes. In closing, I want to thank the committee for your support of our programs, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll begin the question period by recognizing myself for 5 minutes. Sir, while the federal government has been successful in achieving the 23% small business goals, and you laid out some of the other improvements that you're tracking, the overall participation of small firms in federal contracts has declined in recent years. According to the most recent scorecard, the small business count in FY 2019 was 102,422, while in FY 2018 it was 113 and 135. This represents a 9% reduction in the small business base in 1 year's time. Based on your expertise, why do you believe the small business base is shrinking, and what kinds of challenges are holding small businesses back from either joining or causing them to drop out?
Okay, sir. Well, first of all, what we've tried to do is, and I told my staff when I came on board, was we've got to be facilitators of business here. We don't want to stop business from happening. We want to be facilitators. So there's an extensive education program going on with all of our stakeholders, and we have extensive outreach with the OSDBUs at the agencies, the small business heads, with the procurement officers. Since I come from the other side of the house, basically, the procurement side of the house, I understand that side of the house, and so I hold those conversations with those people also. And so we're trying to figure out what exactly, there's an awful lot of anecdotal evidence out there, but we need really good data and real good research to find out what the effects of, for instance, category management on small business, what are the effects of the CMMC, the Cybersecurity Initiative, and what can we do in the areas of subcontracting to mitigate some of these issues. But, like I say, I focus on hard data because anecdotal will just get you so far, but we've got a lot of work to do in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about the work that you'll be leading in this office to get SBA to help encourage other agencies to increase and diversify their small business space at the prime level?
Yes, as I said previously, we're doing extensive outreach to the OSDBUs. In the approximately 2.5 months that I've been on the job, I have been able to reach out probably to half to 2/3 of the 24 CFO agencies, their OSDBUs, and learn what is difficult for them. And a lot of things, what I hear all the time is focus is key. So when you add balls to the juggler, and you've got all these balls in the air, you've got all these socioeconomic groups that you're focused on, and then you throw in category management and cybersecurity, like I said, there needs to be a lot of education and a lot of work done. And the OSDBUs have really helped me, even in just the 2.5 months I've been there, understand where the problems are. But we still have a lot of work to do to figure out exactly where those issues are and attack them.
One final question from me. This round, shifting to the hub zone, where in FY 2019, we didn't meet the goal of having 3% awarded to all eligible prime contracts in the hub zone businesses. I recognize this is a program where that goal has never been met, so this doesn't necessarily represent, a backslide in success. But I did want to just get your thoughts on what you think you can do to help implement and ensure that agencies try and make better use of the Hub Zone set-aside program to meet the 3% goal?
Yes, sir. The first thing I want to say is, even though we did not meet the 3%, over the last 2 years, there's been an increase in Hub Zone, which is, to me, I'm an optimistic person, and I like to see the increases. So that's a good thing. But we've got a specific Hub Zone action plan underway. Statutory changes to program help, targeted effective outreach to firms and agencies, learning lessons from high-performing agencies, and innovative acquisition strategies by NASA and other agencies. We're learning from all that. The other thing is, I noticed when I came on board, coming from the outside, sometimes even though you're not intimate with the subject matter, it's good to come from the outside with a different perspective, and I love to see that myself. So I noticed with the Hub Zone, there are a lot of peculiarities in order to meet the Hub Zone requirements. But, we are addressing those proactively and trying to facilitate, as I said, my philosophy, we should make business easier for people, not more difficult. And so that is, those are a couple of things that are being done. And every time I talk to the OSDBUs, it's funny because I've talked to a few that have really high Hub Zone numbers. I mean, I had talked to one like 13, 15% Hub Zone. And I asked them what their Hub Zone secret is every time. And most of the time, the answer is focus and focusing on the Hub Zone. So, hopefully with that and the unique points of the program, which we have covered, we are covering proactively in GCBD, we will find an answer to this 3% and hopefully exceed it next year.
Thank you very much for that. Out of time. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ranking Member Stauber for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Dr. Spam Panato, I apologize for mispronouncing your name during the opening statement. As the new Associate Administrator for the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, what are your plans for the future of GCBD? And can you share with us your overarching goals as well as any specific items you would like to achieve?
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for that question. Like I said earlier, first and foremost, I don't want, back in the days when I wasn't in the SBA, every once in a while I saw the SBA as a place where sometimes we were stopped from doing certain things because the SBA, was looking over small business, and we were, it was a slow ramp up to learn, I think, on the agency procurement side that, hey, small businesses can do this work, so let's get on board here. But so my first and foremost thing is, like I said, is to facilitate business. We've got to do better, even though I think SBA is doing a great job now. When I came on board, I've seen a lot of things. People working at home doing a great job because of the situation.
Yeah.
But it's our job to facilitate business, to make it happen. And so that's my overall vision, I guess you would say. But the other thing is and I know we will probably talk about this a little bit, but the other thing is to get our data needs together and get our IT together and work on a long-term plan so that we have good data.
And Mr. Spam Panato, that was actually going to be one of my next questions on the data gathering. So to that point, just tell us a little bit about your thoughts on how you're going to do that and what your needs would be.
Okay, well, I don't want to be premature, but what I do want to say is the old system that we currently have, we're not abandoning, that's kind of the wrong word to use for that. We're using, that system to the extent we can to maintain what we currently have. But we do need a new system. And I have started having great conversations with the CIO and the CFO and try to determine how we are going to do that. But we are committed. I don't have specific plans with me today. And like I said, I don't want to be premature here. But we are committed to getting a good system in place. Because like I said, if we don't have good data, how can we facilitate business? We can't do it.
Exactly.
But we're going to be completely honest with everyone in what we need and what we need to move into the future and to be that facilitator of business. So we will, as soon as we have something in granite, we will share that. We just don't have it right now.
And also, if there's anything that this committee can help you with, feel free to reach out to the chair or myself, and whatever we can do to facilitate that. And just one more question. This subcommittee held an oversight hearing last May on the SBA's Women-Owned Small Business Program. In the hearing, the SBA testified the new Women-Owned Small Business Program would not be operational until sometime in 2021. Do you have, or can you commit to a more specific time period or date?
Well, I believe, now we've received, as of today, or yesterday, we have received 1,100 applications, and we are working through the system. But I can't,
Would you say early 2021?
I respectfully request to get back.
Mr. Spampanato, if you don't have the answer, and I totally understand,
Yeah,
if you would get it to the chair and myself, that would be great.
We will do that.
Okay.
We will do that.
I think my time is running out. Thank you for your testimony and your service to our country.
Thank you, sir.
Gentleman yields. We'll now recognize Congresswoman Judy Chu, Chairwoman of the Subcommittee on Investigations, Oversight, and Regulations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Dr. Spampanato, I wanted to ask about the 8A Minority Small Business Program. The participation has declined precipitously from 7,000 participants in 2010 to just 4,450 in 2019. And this is why last year this committee held a hearing on the 8A program where we heard from businesses and stakeholders, and they testified that a major contributing factor to declining participation is that they often spent years in the program before receiving their first contract, and many businesses never received a contract at all over the 9-year participation window. So can you tell us how many companies have been accepted into the 8A program this year and how this compares to previous years, and discuss why there's this decline and how you are addressing this declining participation in 8A?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your question. I appreciate that. What we'd like to, or happy to report, a steady increase in the total number of firms accepted. In FY20 year-to-date, we've had 527 new firms. Over FY 2019, 437 new firms. So we've had an increase of roughly 90 firms accepted into the 8A program, and we're still, of course, in the fiscal year. We acknowledge the decline of program participants in 2010. The number fluctuates due to a combination of factors: successful completion of the 9-year program and graduation, voluntary withdrawal, firm requests early graduation, or it's terminated for noncompliance. We've had, many in those categories. And what I would like to say, it's important to note that SBA has strategically focused on application education. We continue to emphasize to interested eligible firms the importance of being procurement ready from day one so they are positioned for a fully successful 9-year program. In some instances, firms have informed us they are glad they waited to apply after having received training and education about the program. They want to apply when they know they're really ready so they don't waste time during the valuable developmental program years 1 through 4 before they must begin transition years 5 through 9 and generate strong revenue streams. So, and I'll emphasize, as we all know, this the 8A program is a business development program as opposed to a government contracting program. So we are educating and helping firms to develop, to assist them, and we are doing our best to get more firms into the program with outreach and education.
Well, thank you for that. I wanted to ask also about the shortfalls in the subcontracting goals. You did mention the prime contracting goals, and the federal government did increase in the prime contracting goals for small business, but in the subcontracting, the hub zone actually also declined. It was 1.4 in 2018 and then 1.37 in 2019, but also the same decline occurred in the small disadvantaged business from 4.9 to 4.17%, and then also for the service disabled veteran-owned small business from 2.1 to 1.95%. So what is the reason for this, and what are you doing about it?
Okay, thank you for that thoughtful question, ma'am. I've got to be honest, a long time ago when I was in the involved in the OSDBU at the Department of Energy, subcontracting was critical to us because we had such a big subcontracting component out in the field with the labs. And, I think basically what happens here, you do well in what you focus on. And I think that there hasn't been enough focus on subcontracting. And, for the last 15 years, I've always thought subcontracting was critical. So we have got to take a refocus on subcontracting so that we can get those numbers up and get the, get on board with the OSDBUs and the procurement side of the house to get these numbers up. But I think if we focus on subcontracting and say, hey, look, this is important as prime. I mean, for years, people looked at the prime numbers and said, hey, prime is all we're about. But I have been focused on subcontracting my entire career. So I will put an extended focus on subcontracting, and we will move toward better numbers, I believe, next year and the following years. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, and I yield back.
Thank you. We'll now recognize Rep. Troy Balderson, Ranking Member of the Subcommittee on Innovation and Workforce Development, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Payne, thank you for being here. Excuse me. The GCBD has a critical role in formulating policy that affects small businesses contracting government-wide. With that said, what policy changes or improvements are you considering in the short term and the long term?
Thank you for your question. Our first focus, and like I spoke about earlier, are the changes that we have made in the hub zone program to clarify some of the, what I call, which somebody else may not call, but me looking from the outside before I got here, some peculiarities of the hub zone program. We're clarifying those, making them a little more easier to understand, and so that is a big policy change. I believe we have to, I believe personally, we have to do something in what I just spoke about, subcontracting, some kind of a policy change to focus or emphasize, re-emphasize subcontracting. Number two, I believe we have to do that. And we've also, we're also working closely with our OIG to ensure that we keep our eye on the ball and we're focusing on the right policy. And so we're working closely with them also in developing policy. Other than that, I can get back to you on other things we are focused on, but that's what I have right now.
Okay, thank you very much, and if you would get that to myself and the chairman, please, I'd be grateful. My next question is, the fiscal year 2019 scorecard shows that the prime contracting achievement for women-owned small businesses was exceeded. However, the SBA Office of Inspector General released a fairly recent report showing severe deficiencies in the SBA's assessment of eligible women-owned small business firms. Do you think this achievement reported in the scorecard may be inflated by awards made to ineligible firms?
I would say I do not believe it's inflated. But I mean, this was a self-certification program, and to some extent, you have to believe what people tell you, that they are certified. And I believe this. I mean, this is only the second time in the history of the scorecard where women-owned small business goals were met, and I believe it's a great start-off point, I mean, to me, to continue on this trend. And I think that it'll only be strengthened by the bringing the women-owned small business certification into the SBA. I really can't, I can't really attest to or affirm what we've done in the past or how, like I said, my past is 2.5 months here. But I think I am very optimistic moving forward once we get our certification and our certification abilities on women-owned small business and work out some of the IT issues. I believe it's going to be a much better program, and I believe we're going to continue on an upward trend.
Okay. My follow-up to that would be, and again, I'll just have you, and I appreciate and understand your time as far as being there, but if you'd also relay to the chairman and myself, given the Inspector General's report, what steps is the GCBD taking to ensure only eligible women-owned small businesses receive contract awards? So if you could get that information to us also, I'd be grateful for that. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back my remaining time.
Yes, we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and ask a second round of questions. Do I understand you're all set? All right, very good. I think I heard you correctly, sir, when you said that you didn't really view that the SBA was abandoning the IT program, which we've heard from the OIG, but rather expanding upon it, making some additional improvements. And I wanted to just give you an opportunity, if you could, to elaborate a little bit on what the system that will replace Certify will bring to the table in regards to new capabilities that you currently have been struggling with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can talk in generalities. I mean, first of all, like I said, I don't know what the definition of abandoning a system is, because you can't just abandon any system midstream and have nothing. So we're continuing to do the best we can with what we have. In the future, some of the things that have been talked about here, just you know, the certifications, having a good certification system, being able to talk to candidate businesses back and forth, pass information back and forth, those types of things, and to have a high level of validity to the system. When somebody is certified, you know they are certified. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things that we're looking for in a big general sense. You know, there are going to be definitely a lot more specifics coming forth, and you know, we can make those available. But we're you know, they have this thing in government contracting which has historically been a problem, and that is generation of requirements. The requirements have always hurt, you know, generating requirements have always hurt us. And then we get, you know, 2/3 into the program, we figure out that, well, geez, we got to go back and regenerate our requirements because we haven't done it correctly. We're being very cautious and very vigilant on the true requirements for us to facilitate business. And so we're going to be very deliberate in that approach. We're not going to rush to anything. So we're just being very, like I said, I'm working closely with the CIO and the CFO, and we're going to move to a good solution where we can get the data we need and we can be the facilitators of business that we need to be for small business.
Thank you, sir. Just coming back to the Women-Owned Small Business Program, according to the SBA website, SBA began intake of women-owned small business applications on July 15th of this year, and reported it would not be until October 15th of 2020 that SBA would begin issuing decisions on certification applications. And I think I heard you, in response to another question, say that you've received about 1,100 applications under the program. Is that since July? And also, has SBA started vetting these applications? And will participants likely be notified in October?
Sir, I can't be positive on that, but because I need to know more about the women-owned small business, so I don't want to comment on the new program, but we can get those responses back to you quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And just lastly, as you've noted, in your testimony or during the Q&A, you have seen growth towards a lot of the goals in this fiscal year, and I think I made a note that you saw 8A applications up more than 100% from the same period in 2019. I believe that was during the period in 2020 where we've been facing the coronavirus pandemic and some of the impacts on the economy and small businesses out there. Could you just take an opportunity to share with the committee anything that you would like about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted either SBA's resources assigned to the contracting programs, whether or not there's been any delays or challenges in the administration of these programs due to the pandemic? And some of the data you shared out actually suggests that you actually seem to see an uptick in participation. Is that in part driven by the pandemic itself?
Yes, sir. What I'd like to say about the pandemic, there are a lot of resources within SBA that do not include my office, which I really can't comment. But they've done some great things for small business. In terms of what we do in GCBD, and like I alluded to earlier, our people, most of our people are working from home. And when I came on board, I was concerned about that. But when I realized that the work was getting done and in fine form, I realized that's not an issue. The outreach continues to small businesses. The outreach, the education, the programs continue to work with their business candidate businesses. So we really haven't lost a step in working with them and helping and outreach. So I'm very pleased about that. Specifics, I don't have a lot of specifics for you, but I know that I mean, I've heard back from, I've heard trade groups and others, and they're very pleased with the way my team has conducted it themselves in terms of being available. Being available in the federal government is a big thing especially for small businesses. And it's been working well for us, and I don't see any problem with that continuing either.
Thank you very much. Representative Balderson, are you all set? Okay. Well, with that, just some closing remarks, and one thing I wanted to make note of, sir, is both the ranking member and I represent rural communities, where one of the earlier frustrations I've experienced on the committee was getting out into the community and hearing too often from small business owners that they were essentially unaware of the types of programs and services that the SBA provides. Generally speaking, people have viewed it as not much more than a loan program. I think in too many cases where, I see small business, owners who are doing work that I think, geez, government would really benefit if you were bringing this expertise, to service, for our government. Other programs like the Small Business Development Center, if you're familiar with that, where you've been talking about education and outreach. They do great work all around the country, yet far too few businesses are even aware that they're there and that they're generally free of fee services and consultation and all kinds of things that could help businesses even identify the opportunity to pursue a contract with the government. There's just a lot of options out there. Something else that I know ranking member and I have been interested in is the Office of Rural Affairs, which has for years been on the statutes, but under multiple administrations, basically unstaffed and the mission completely unfulfilled. So we're interested in hearing about education and outreach activities that will actually penetrate and get out there into rural communities as well as urban ones. But I think really a lot of missed opportunities when people just aren't aware of the work that's being done and what they could bring to the table to the benefit of the entire country. I want to thank you for being here today and for everything that you've shared with us. As well as that you will follow up with in the wake of the hearing. For this committee, strengthening the contracting and business development program is of the utmost importance because of the role it plays in increasing competitiveness and providing access to federal opportunities. I think the discussion today brings us closer in understanding how these programs can better serve the small business community, particularly in these times of economic challenges that we are all facing. I also want to thank the staff within GCBD for their hard work and constant commitment to small businesses. We look forward to working with you to level the playing field for small businesses across the country. Mr. Stubber, do you have any closing remarks?
No, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just I appreciate your testimony, and as the chair said, we both represent rural areas of this country. And northern Maine is very similar to northern Minnesota. And when he talked about many small businesses don't know the opportunities and the advantages that they that can be had by getting involved. So that's it. And again, thank you for your testimony. Thanks, Chair.
Go ahead and ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. Without objection, so ordered. And if there's no further business to come before the committee, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, sir.